Well, I haven't gotten very much further with my EC135 since the last video. I can show you a few bits and pieces what I have done, which I'll show you in a couple of minutes. I haven't glued any of the woodwork in yet. This front section here is still not glued in, and the reason being is I'm waiting for a cockpit set coming from Cinyscale. And I want to make sure that it all fits okay before I commit to gluing that piece in. Pretty much the same sort of thing with the mechanics woodwork here. That's not glued in yet. I'm not gluing that in until I'm satisfied that the tail boom will line up properly with the coupling there on the speed up gears. You can just see it inside there. And that the drive shaft will run nice and smoothly, which hopefully it should. So that's why I'm leaving the tail boom off. The other reason why as well is obviously it's a lot easier to work on when it's on the bench, rather than having to keep manoeuvring the whole helicopter around. I can just work on the tail boom on the bench, as I said, and it's a lot easier. Right, what I've gotten done up to now anyway. As you can see, the tail boom's now in place. That's glued in place, and so is the coupling here that the tail rotor gearbox fixes onto. Also here you can see the guide, the tube guide for the pitch change rod. Now I actually made a mistake with that, and if we come across to the instructions I'll show you what happened. In the instructions here it says to drill a 4.5mm hole. Now looking at the picture, I took that to be directly below and in line with the tail boom when it comes out the back of the tail boom section into the fenestron opening here. So what I did was, as I said, I made a mistake. At first I drilled the hole about here, which was in line, you know, directly underneath the tail boom in the centre line of it, and this I found to be in the wrong place. And the reason is if we come across and have a look at the tail rotor, when the tail rotor was fixed in place, the pitch change control rod coming through the original hole that I had wouldn't line up properly here. It's meant to go into there, and it's secured with that Allen screw there. Now it wouldn't go in there at all, so obviously I knew that tube guide was going to have to be removed and replaced rather. So as I say, I moved it slightly further across, put the tail rotor gearbox in again, and it's turned out okay. I've had to fill the hole in a little bit there, but I'm not worried about that. I mean, when it's all primed and painted up, you'll not see that. Now the other thing with the tail boom was a little bit fiddly to get in place. What you have to do is, before the fenestron hub is fixed onto the tail rotor gearbox, you have to fit just the tail rotor gearbox itself, which is this part here, gets fitted onto this plywood disc here, and it's fitted on with the 4 bolts there, and the output shaft of the gearbox comes through the centre hole there. And the idea is you get the plywood disc with your gearbox on and you fit it inside that hole there until it lines up perfectly with the tail boom. And when it's lined up perfectly with the tail boom, you can go ahead and glue the tail boom in place, because you have to obviously do it with all this loose first to make sure that it's set right. And as I say, it took a few attempts for me to get this right. I had this disc in and out a few times, and it's quite a tight fit. I was worried that when I was putting the plywood disc in and taking it out, it was going to crack something, but it didn't anyway. So I got the job done eventually. So that's in now. Right, the tail rotor drive shaft, which is this, you can see here, this 6mm stainless steel tube. The one that came with my kit had a bend in it. Now I'm not sure whether it came with a bend in it, or maybe bent it taking it out of the box. I'm not sure, but I had to get a replacement one anyway from Vario UK. So that's already cut to length. I've had that in the tail boom with the couplings on each end, and then connected up to the fuselage to make sure that it's running in a straight line, which it looks like it pretty much is. So that should be okay. It's turning nice and smooth and everything. Right, so if we come back across to the only thing that the builder has to do is to build up the rest of the gearbox, and also the pitch change mechanism has to be assembled and fitted into the gearbox. This steel shaft here runs right the way through the gearbox, and then when you've built the gearbox up, when you've got the bevel gears in with the shims to get it to run nice and smooth, it's just a simple case of just putting this crank on here for the pitch control rod to fit onto. That was the part that I was having the trouble with before. So that's that done anyway. That's built up. The other thing to do when you've got the tail rotor gearbox built up is to just put this front cover on here, which, as you can see, it just fixes on into place with 4 Allen bolts there and there. So that's relatively straightforward to do. Nothing hard about that at all. I was surprised. I was expecting to have a lot of trouble with that, but it went on okay. And you can see there's I'm working the crank there. You can see it changing the pitch of the blades, which works nice and smooth. The other thing what I wanted to show you was the instructions here for fitting the horizontal stabilizers on. In the instructions it shows you here that it's just a case of gluing the horizontal stabilizer onto the fuselage here, and then gluing the vertical part of the stabilizer onto the horizontal part. Well, I was having a look at that and I thought, well, you know, in itself that, you know, they may not be very strong because there's not a great contact point here for the two things, you know, for that to fit onto there. And in the past I've seen scale helicopters with these sorts of things on, with these fins on, and they've been shaking like mad as the engine's been spooling up. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll get some carbon rod and I'll run the rod, you know, through one right the way through the fuselage and out into the other one, and put some little balsa formers inside the horizontal fins for to stiffen everything up. And if we come across here, you can see that's what I've done. I've just fitted the one for now just to show you what it's like. If you have a look here, you can just about see the wood there. That's one of the balsa formers inside there. There's one there. There's another one about here. And if we have a look at this one here, you can see how it's done. They're dead easy to do. Just some balsa wood, as I said. Simple case of just, you know, putting your horizontal fin onto some balsa wood like that, and a simple matter of just drawing a line around it with a pencil all the way around. Cut it out with a modelling knife, and then just get your balsa wood and just sand it until you can get it to fit inside the fin. When it fits inside the fin, just run some super glue in, glue it into place, and then just, as I say, get the holes in. Get the holes in the fuselage there. If I tilt this back over, you get a better look at it there. Get the holes in the fuselage, they go straight through and into the other one. When it's all glued up, they're very, very stiff. I mean, I've glued this one on, and I used very, very little epoxy on this, and it's really solid. You can barely move it. So obviously the other one will be the same when I put that one on. The other thing I wanted to show you was the bottom part of the vertical stabilizer. Now in the book it says for to glue that on straight, but if you have a look at mine, you can see mine's glued on an angle, and the reason for that is on the full size helicopters they're also glued on an angle, they're not straight. I think it's got something to do with the air going into the fenestron tail on the full size anyway. I mean, it's purely cosmetic on the model one, just to make it look a bit more scale. So if you're building an EC135, it may be worth remembering that the bottom part of the vertical stabilizer doesn't go on straight. That in itself is just epoxied on in place, and I think there's a little bit of filling to do around it. I worked quite a bit on that to get the correct shape, so it would fit on with the minimum of filling, but I will still have a little bit more filling to do on it, and that should look okay. And there'll be a little bit more filling to do, you know, when I put the horizontal stabilizer on here. I don't know if it's just me, but I've always got to put a little bit of filler in around this edge where it butts up against the tail, and the same on the other one. But I mean, that's going to be one of the virtually the last things to do before I paint it. So I think that's pretty much it for now. Other things that I've done, only a couple other things I can show you. Got the holes cut out for the exhausts, which I'm going to get painted in the next couple of days. I intend to paint the exhaust silver on the outside of the part, you'll see, but on the actual inside of the exhaust I think I'll paint them matte black. I think these holes still need opening out a little bit more. They're just nipping the exhausts a little tiny bit, so they just need a little bit more taken off, just to make them a little bit better fit. The hole on top here, I've got that, the main shaft is coming out virtually in the centre of the hole. Still needs a little bit of work on that edge, just to tidy it up a little bit. It's not quite as round as it should be, so I shall get that done. I think that's about it. That's all I can show you for now. So I'll get another video done when I get some more work done on it, and I'll get back to you later on. Cheers, bye.